Sophie, I don't think I've ever had you on the podcast before.
No, I've been a follower for many years and I'm very excited that I'm here.
You called me last week and you had something. You actually didn't. You left me an audio message. It was very fancy.
I don't know if I called you. I left you a voice memo.
Why did you decide to? It's the first voice memo I've ever received.
Do you know what? I think it's the first one I've ever done as well.
We popped our voice memo cherries. What was in that voice memo for people who aren't me and didn't hear it?
Yeah, okay. So I had listened to your interview with Glennon Doyle and a book of Glennon's that she's just released. Is something I've just bought. I haven't started to read it yet.
Untamed.
Untamed. I've been a follower of hers for quite a long time and recently bought her book. Saw that you'd done the podcast with her. Obviously had to have a listen, and there were so many, I described them as head nodding moments when I just went yes throughout that interview. And I don't know, again, voice memo, I've never done it before, but I had to tell you in that exact moment how I was feeling, and I didn't want to put it in words. I just sent you an audio message of me, and I let you know how beautiful I thought the interview was, how well done I thought it was, and just how much of Glennon's life I felt resonated with mine.
Which parts resonated with you? Obviously, you're a mother.
Yep.
You're in a new relationship.
Yep.
Was it that?
It wasn't so much so the part about being in a relationship with a woman. Obviously, there's similarities there. We've both left marriages, we both have children, and we're both now in relationships with women. It wasn't so much that. It was the themes throughout the interview and throughout, her writing. I read a lot of her writing where it's all about that whole tamed idea that women are brought up to feel like we should be grateful all the time and we should be content with what we've got. And if we have a man and if we have a beautiful ring and he has a job, like we should just be happy and we should be grateful because, that man provided us with that life. When that's obviously not always the case.
Hashtag gratitude.
Yeah. And why I love the message that she pushes, that why can't women seek for more? Why should we always have to settle? Not that settling, because I had a beautiful, beautiful man in my life and I still do. He's an incredible father and an incredible friend to me. But why can't women seek more?
As you say, the parallels are almost uncanny between you and Glennon in terms of she is now married to a professional athlete who used to travel the world.
It's funny because her and Alana I think they know each other. So it's really...
Abby Wambach, her wife.
It is. It's funny.
Because Alana's a professional soccer player as well. How did you guys meet?
Through work. So we share the same management company, but still our relationship blossomed on the phone, on FaceTime. She was overseas for probably the first 5 to 6 months, and not that we dove straight into a relationship at all. It absolutely wasn't like that, but we definitely connected straight away. And I say, in a way, she changed my life in the sense that because obviously I dated women and men, and I was going through. I was a single. It was a single period for me, but she was the person that made me realize, wow, I can actually see myself in a relationship with a woman long term, and I can see myself having a life there. So
you say, obviously, I dated women and I dated men. Isn't it funny how that has become part of the, not the zeitgeist, but that's almost background noise now. It's entirely unremarkable, the fact that you could be married to a man and then date women and date men. But before you got married, did you also date women?
No, never. Looking back, again, I go back to that conditioning, that environment that I grew up in, those values, not at all that my parents were, you couldn't do that, but I suppose the school I went to, the friends I hung around, I wasn't exposed to things like that. That sounds very naive how I worded that. I didn't mean that. I wasn't exposed to with the friendship circles that I surround myself with, I suppose. So it was very, this is what you did. You go to uni, you do this, you get your degree, you find a man, and every girl's chasing a rock on her finger and we get it and we're happy. And that's so great. But me, I just want to challenge all those, I want to challenge the norm, and I want to find what else is out there. I want to experience life. That's a big thing for me. And again, going back to what Glennon says, it's not always about settling, but, it's abandoning what we think or we're told we should be. And that's what I've done. I've thrown that out the window.
I loved what she says about being overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time.
Absolutely.
That to me sounds like what you're describing, this idea of is this all there is and is it enough?
Yep. and it's nothing personal against my ex-partner. Incredible person, and everyone in my circle, my close circle, my family will vouch for that. But it's overwhelmed to the point of, this is my life. And at times I felt like have I made bad decisions here? Should we have got married? I don't regret my children at all, but they obviously impacted my 20s. My whole 20s was being a mum. My rest of my life will be a mum, but my 20s was changing nappies and, sleepless nights. And now I go into my 30s in a position where I've got older children.
How old are they now?
Bobby's 6 and Florence has just turned 3. So
I love how that's your definition of older, but what you mean is you're out of the baby
I'm out
stage.
of nappies. I think once you're out of nappies, you feel a bit more freedom come to you, And I felt a bit more like Sophie, to be honest. And I've always said I don't think it's bizarre that a woman in her late 20s really started to find herself. I think that's actually quite normal, and I think that that's okay. I just think for me, I was married with kids, so it's like, well, no, you should already know who you are. You should not be doing that. So I do think it made a lot of people uncomfortable to see me doing that. But
who was uncomfortable?
I was recently telling Lance, like I've had people in my life that have been from what I would view as my close circles, 15 years, who have never even acknowledged that I have a girl partner or that I've left a marriage, have never even brought up these conversations with me. Now, I would think if, a family member or a friend, a cousin, etc., had gone through these things.
What should they say?
It's not what they
if anyone's in that situation.
Yeah. Maybe just check in. Maybe just... I don't know. It's not that I need people to, but also in return, I've recently spoken to a friend about this where I said I do know, because I pulled away from a lot of people. I probably have still pulled away quite a bit because there was such a period of my life there where I was so uncertain. I didn't have answers. So I was almost embarrassed to talk to people about it because I didn't know what I was going to say. So I get it that their view is probably she doesn't want to talk about it. So I think it comes hand in hand. I absolutely don't point the finger at people. I say that there's just... For me, I probably should have reached out to a few more people.
Because you feel like your life has changed so fundamentally and how can people not acknowledge this and still claim to be close to me?
Yeah, but then on the other hand, I absolutely get that they're probably like, oh, she's dealing with something really personal. If she wants to talk about it, she will. So I definitely see both sides.
You came out in a couple of different ways, and it's even sort of funny having to say that. But first you did an interview where you said, people are saying, are you a lesbian now? And I want to read what you said because it was really interesting.
I think I said, am I sitting here saying I'm a lesbian? No. Am I sitting here saying I'm not a lesbian? No. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of March, you made it Insta official, which is the only official that counts.
Yeah.
And you posted a picture of you and Lana and you said, everything and everyone has a place and time. It's been a long and bumpy road for us to get here, but I'm glad to be in isolation and running out of toilet paper with you. What were those different stages and decisions like? Because, when you have a partner or former partner and you've got children and then your former partner's family, what's the calculation in your mind before, as a public figure, you make those declarations?
So for me, it was just, like I said, going back to figuring a lot of things out before I spoke to anybody. So it's funny with social media, I had a lot of followers, asking questions, and I would think, I haven't even spoke to my mum about that. I'm not going to post it on Instagram.
What questions are they asking?
Oh, are you gay? Are you in a relationship with a woman? Well, first of all, it started with, have you and Jared separated? We hadn't told our families for 12 months that we were planning to separate. I saw you here, or
So this is before you mentioned it in the
this
interview.
Is long before. So there was lots of questions that would come in, like I said, about really personal things from just followers observing that we hadn't even spoken to anybody about.
Because you'd been seen out in public and the jungle drum started beating and the gossip.
And I get that. That's fine. But I think and also too, because I had been previously so open with every facet of my life, every little intricate detail, and I had a partner at the time who was okay with me doing that. And then when you're going through changes that are so emotionally, mentally, like I was going through such a battle, so much turmoil. What is happening with my life? First of all, what's happening with me? What's happening with my marriage? What's happening with my life? What's this going to mean for my kids? And then to feel like I have to explain that to Instagram followers, it's like it was suffocating, you know. So that post that you just read out regarding, you know, Instagram official, a lot of that background noise wasn't anything really to do with Alana. It was my own personal things to get me to that point. Like, that was a very big deal for me to, you know, I don't think that's me going, hey, I'm gay, because I probably don't still sit here and go, I am a lesbian. I sit here and say, I have a partner who's a female. So
it's a funny thing, the desire to put people in boxes.
Yeah.
Like, everyone, have you found that? People wanting you to say what you are?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I do laugh at this stuff. I've started a TikTok account, which, you know, I started with my son to do silly dances, and now I do the occasional one. I look like an idiot, but it's fine.
I think we all do.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've got one
I'm
too.
happy to do that. And someone, I didn't even realise, I really don't check the comments or something, and a mum of 3 kids had written on there, are you a lesbian? And I just hadn't answered. And then I think she wrote something like, can you just answer yes or no? It's very simple. Just be honest. And I thought, well, 1, it's not actually very simple. 2, Stephanie 9092 or whatever your name was, I don't actually have to answer you. And thirdly, just be honest. I've shared my partner on my page because I haven't put a banner above it saying, hey, this is my gay girlfriend and me. I think it's quite self-explanatory, really.
Can you please use a hashtag?
Yeah.
Like, what hashtag are you using, Sophie?
I need to use...
Is it queer? Is it lesbian? What is it? The people need to know.
I'll just put a rainbow. No, but it's funny because, yeah, she it's yes or no, just be honest. And I think something that I've found too is, because I have evolved over the years. When I started this whole Instagram, I was 22, 23 years old. I'm now turning 30 this year. I've gone through a lot in my private life. My mind has matured. You know, my thoughts have matured. And I have evolved as a person, and that's what we all do. You know, if I asked you if you were the same person 8 to 10 years ago, I'd hope that you'd say...
Babe, I'm a different person than before lockdown.
I'm going to be a different person in about 8 minutes.
I'm
after
on
this
TikTok
coffee.
now.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I think, again, people sometimes struggle with, well, you used to share everything. Why aren't you sharing everything? There's so many factors that come into it now. 1, I'm a different person. I'm absolutely a different person, and I'm really proud of the person I've blossomed into. 2, I have an older son now who's at school. I'm now cautious of what he hears, what their mums are watching on Instagram. They might tell their son, and he listens to so much. He hears conversations that go on in my house, so I'm now cautious of him and my daughter. Thirdly, the person I am in a relationship with comes from a totally different world. She's a professional athlete. Social media isn't her norm, and I need to respect her privacy, her family's privacy. And if anything, she's taught me in a way, I think because I have been on this platform for so long in such an open, raw way, and I did start to see the beauty in privacy, and if anything, she's like stamped that into me, that it's so nice to live in our own little bubble, and we did. Like, I'm telling you now, no, it's funny, people on Instagram, and especially the trolls, they think they know everything about your life. No one knew about her for a very, very, very long time, and it was so, so beautiful. And we say our favourite moments are together when it's just us and no one knows what's going on. It's so nice.
You started, as you said, blogging under the name The Young Mummy, and I've heard this from a lot of people who came of age as bloggers and then moved on to other things. Your audience almost feels entitled to knowing everything about you, and it's kind of always reminded me of the idea that just because you've had sex with someone once doesn't mean that they're entitled to have sex with you whenever they want. Like, you get to draw the boundaries. Don't you? You get to say, well, I told you everything about that relationship or at that time of my life, and now I don't want to do that anymore.
Yep.
How have you found navigating that transition?
I think for me, I'm okay because that comes naturally to me, that, you know, I'll stamp my authority and I'll put my foot down and I will say no, but I do feel for the people who aren't that strong, that are in that space.
Did you worry that it was going to cost you in terms of business profile, opportunities?
And for a bit it probably did, and I was okay with that. And you know, I was with a previous management company who I remember said to me, well, if you're not blogging, you've got to be doing something. You know, if you're not a blogger now, what are you going to do? I thought, I'm okay to just sit for a while and figure it out. You know, I'm okay if I become irrelevant for a while. That's totally fine with me. While I figure some stuff out, I'm so fine to just sit in the shadows. I've always said that it doesn't seem like it, but whilst I am on social, I'm very present, my businesses are on there, I don't actually live and breathe social media like a lot of people in my space do. I probably did a few years ago. Now, something like I didn't post a photo for 5 days. Like the old Sophie would have been fretting and sweating, I've got to keep in people's feeds. Now
Feeding the beast.
Yeah, but now it's I obviously understand the power in it, and I have a business in Cachia that is extremely successful off the back of social media, so I'm not naive to that, and I'm forever grateful for the fans, the followers, and the loyal customer base that we have produced from that. Cachia doesn't exist without it. So absolutely, I'm staying in the space for these opportunities, but I don't. I definitely don't live and breathe it, and it doesn't take over my mind so much like it used to.
Is it awkward having the same name as your ex-husband when it's your brand and you're not married anymore?
No, not really. And a lot of questions have come into me on social about, will I change my name back? Now, that's something when I separated, I didn't go, no, am I going to change my name back? What am I going to do? Because I've got Cachia as a business, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, if I do choose to change my name back, Cachia's still my family name. It's still my children's name. So that, and Jared's never going to say, excuse me, get my name off the wall. That's a brand name now. So that doesn't really faze me. If anything, at the start, I was like, no, I'll never change my name. And then I've thought, well, I might one day, if I do meet another partner, and I'm obviously in no way, shape or form even thinking about getting married again. I'm still actually married.
One marriage at a time.
Can we just do one thing, please? I can't concentrate. Will I return to my maiden name? Yeah, maybe one day if I do want to remarry. Will I change my name again? Absolutely not. Changing my name is something that even Jared said at the time. He's like, why are you doing that? You're such like a feminist inside. Why are you taking my name? But I desperately wanted the same name as my kids. But now I've realised it's not really relevant. They're my kids. They're my blood. They're not going anywhere. So, no, it doesn't. Seeing that name, Cachia on the walls, I go into my office. That's something I'll be proud of forever. It was a point in my life where I named my first company after my family's name, and how beautiful. I just think mindset is everything. Your mindset has the power to control everything. Could I look at that and go, oh, that's so sad, that was my married name and now we're separated? Sure. Could I look at it and say, me and my partner started this business and we had 2 beautiful babies and now their name lives on the wall forever? Yeah, sure.
A couple of weeks after you posted that image of you and Alana, you posted a sort of emotional post about being heartbroken. It seemed very raw and not in keeping with what we'd just been talking about keeping some things back. I went before this interview because I'd remembered reading it at the time, and I went back to look for it. It's not there anymore.
It's still in my Instagram TV, but it's off my feed.
Okay.
Which I've only recently realised you can do that.
I did not know
I'm not
that.
very savvy.
We've learnt things, you and I,
someone
today.
Someone who's on social media, I'm not very savvy.
What was that about? Do you feel comfortable saying?
Yeah, no, I do. I'll probably get a bit emotional talking about it, but that a lot of people viewed that as, oh, her and Alana have broken up and, she's made a crying video about it. And obviously our relationship at that point had hit a hiccup. And like I said, there's been times throughout the past, coming up 12 months, it hasn't been easy juggling so many different factors in our relationship. But that to me was, I will definitely get emotional about it. That to me, the thing with Alana was the tip of the iceberg. And underneath all of that was the past 2 years of my life that I had not dealt with. Sorry. And I think that was me almost crying out for help to people that I hadn't spoken to. Now, doing that via social media, I'm sure some people look at that and think, why the hell would you do that for? But that was me crying out to my family. That was me crying out to my friends. That was me crying out to social media that whilst I looked like I had it all together and I looked like I'd separated from my husband and it was fine and we've got such a good relationship, that's all true. Doesn't mean that any of it's been easy. It doesn't mean that any of the, inner turmoil that I have battled for so long inside my head, whether that's with my marriage, what I'm going to do to my children's lives, my sexuality, it doesn't mean that battling any of that inside my head was easy. And that was me Those videos weren't recorded over that week that I disappeared off Instagram. They were recorded for ages, and it wasn't something I planned and I'm going to put together.
That's like of your son comforting you while you were crying and stuff.
That was videos over months of time of me. And I think I mentioned it before. I've almost been too, not embarrassed, but too ashamed to talk to people because I've always been Sophie who's had it together. And again, we go back to grateful. Like, be grateful that, you and your husband get along so well after you've split up. It's so nice. Doesn't mean it's easy, no, because I live with every day. Every single day, I think of my children. And whilst, again, I cannot be more grateful for the relationship I have with their dad. He even stayed over last week because Bobby wanted him to stay over. It doesn't mean it's easy because, when I've got the kids and Florence is saying, where's my daddy? I want to sleep with dad. Or when they're going to Jared's house and Bobby's clinging to me saying, I don't want to go. These are the things that we deal with children. So Jared and I are fine, but it's the things with the children that are so such a battle every single day, and just little conversations of, is daddy going to be coming here, or can we do this with dad? And again, we're so flexible. We're so fluid with who's having the kids and whatever. But
there's heartbreak.
I live with that guilt every day that I've let my kids down, and that I don't know what my life looks like right now, so I don't know what their life looks like. And I know as a team we will work so hard together, and we do every day to give them the best life, but it doesn't mean that as a mum I don't feel that guilt.
And that's because we're conditioned as mothers to feel that if our children experience any pain, we're somehow failing them. And also no mother wants their child to feel any pain.
No.
It's not what we want.
But again, a theme that Glennon spoke about in your podcast, but one I spoke about to a counsellor I saw probably 2 years ago. She said, I'm going to quote this wrong, but it was something along the lines of, my nose is running everywhere, I'm going to look so sexy. Do you want to bring your kids up and abandon yourself in the process and they're happy and it's all smooth and it's all wonderful? Or do you want to teach your kids a little bit of heartbreak and show them that life isn't always easy? And in turn, you're going to be the best person you can be. And so I've gone with that and taught them that don't be afraid to step outside of the norm. Don't abandon yourself in the process, in the process of making anyone else happy in life. And I hope, that's how I sleep at night, that I just hope my kids can look and say, Mum, I'm so proud of you. And Dad, I'm so proud of you as well, because you made the best of a really shitty situation and no one settled and no one lived an unhappy life. And I want them to know that they can do that too, and they can chase and they can go in any direction they want to go in if it means that they're chasing their happiness and they're chasing fulfillment somewhere.
I'm going to flip the switch entirely. And this is not about Alana or anyone in particular, but you've always been fairly open about sex. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you what the difference is between sex with a woman and sex with a man, generally. Not about anyone in specific.
Yeah. No, she'll be turning out. She'll be sitting out there rolling over. No.
I don't mean anyone specific, but I mean
let's
generally.
go back to the first time that I had a sexual encounter with a woman. Then immediately it's and this is going from sex with my husband, who I loved and adored. But for me, sex with a woman is on an incredibly more intimate and emotional level. The connection between two women, and it's a connection that you could feel across a table. Now with a man, I feel like you might feel a sexual chemistry with a man across the table, and that's instant, and you can go, yes, we are, like, there is a vibe there. With a woman, it's as simple as a look into each other's eyes, and it's almost like you could fall in love with them instantly, which most women do very quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I tried to say this to Glennon, when she was talking about Abby.
I can't believe that they, from that moment of meeting,
I know.
Instantly. Well, I can actually.
And it was like, but I often just hit it off with women, right? Mm-hmm. Like all the time. And like you can have chemistry and you can flirt and you can have great banter and you can go out. But how do you know the difference between that and like a tingly feeling in your pants?
Okay, well, I'll go.
Or is that the actual way?
I'll go back to my moment, and it goes back to, and this is something I've never spoken about ever. The first moment that I had with a woman, I'd just given birth to Florence.
Oh.
Okay, I've just given birth to Florence, and I had to do a talk for the AFLW maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, and I had, boobs out here, and I had belly, and I had stitches in my fanny, probably still, like, everything going on. So I didn't feel sexy, didn't feel anything, but I had to go talk on a panel. And I, dolled myself up and whatever and fed the baby and left her at home. And I go back to what you asked before, had I ever had sexual encounters or thoughts about women prior? No. Looking back, probably a few things made sense, but I never was like, oh, I want to kiss that girl. Not through high school, never. And then I rushed into this room and, typical new mum, I was a bit late and I've rushed in, I'm shaking hands, hello, hello, hello. And I shook this woman's hand, and it was like, I hear of these moments. I had my moment. It was just like,
Quite angel singing.
It wasn't a tingle in the pants or anything like that. It was a rush of emotion and feeling and connection, like electricity when I shook her hand, and I just went, oh my God, who are you? And I found myself during the talk, she was sitting next to me, and I found myself looking at her hands going, oh my God, her hands are so amazing. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? And then I was like, as she talked, I was looking at her, and I just found myself besotted by this woman. And I went straight home to Jared. I said, oh my God, Jared, I think I just fell in love with a woman. And when he's like, what? And I was like, no, you know how people talk about those moments and et cetera. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I just had it. And
So you guys obviously had a very open relationship that you could say that.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't threatened.
No, absolutely. And he ended up being friends with this girl for a very long time. We'd go for coffee and whatever. But she was just the first woman that actually, it wasn't like, oh, I think she's so hot, I want to sleep with her. It was just an instant chemistry.
And how did you take that? What did you do next?
That was probably, that would have been, Florence is 3. Yes, I can't believe that was 3 weeks after I had Florence. And then, Jared and I, after we had Florence, we started to sort of navigate a few things. Is this, which direction do we want to go in, et cetera, et cetera. And we both experimented with other people during that time. We had, we've had a very, not open relationship at all the whole time, but we've been very, fluid, I suppose. Pretty okay with a lot of things.
And it sounds like it was very mutual.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you hear about these so-called open relationships where it's really just one person wanting to have sex with other people and the other person doesn't want that.
Both sides, we're very similar in that. Lots of things were just okay.
Hall passes.
Lots of things were okay, and lots, if that's what you want to do, that's fine.
So did you end up having a relationship with this woman?
Not a relationship, no.
Yeah. But a sexual encounter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But quite a while afterwards.
Yeah.
Quite a while afterwards, yeah.
And was it, you don't have to answer any of these questions. I'm just like, is it better?
Yes. To put it bluntly, yes.
Why?
It's that chemistry. It's that connection. It's, what women are like. We pay more attention to detail. We care that little bit more about feelings and what can I do to make you feel better about yourself. And I suppose with a woman too, even though, I was married to Jared, who made me feel like the most incredible person in the world, but as a woman with your body and the, every little part of it, if it's another woman, you feel totally fine.
I was going to ask about that. How does body image come into it?
Yeah, I think you don't even give it a thought.
Yeah.
It's just that's you and this is me. Whether I remember being, a young teenager with boys, I'd be like, oh, don't look here, don't look at that. Oh, does mine look different to someone else's?
I've got my period.
I didn't shave enough or blah, blah, blah. But with a woman, it's just like, oh, that's it. It's not really spoken about. You are made to feel, well, here's me, like queen lesbian of the world. In the very few sexual encounters I've had with a woman.
On behalf of lesbians, I'd just like to say.
Community, no, personally speaking, and I haven't had very many sexual encounters with women, but the ones that I have, I've been made to feel amazing.
I'm so happy to see you so happy. It was lovely to meet Alana.
Thank you. She'd be hiding out there rolling around going, what has she said about me?
She seems not like the limelight type.
No, and that's the thing. It's been great because, like I said, everyone's like, oh, you've pulled back. Well, you need to look at the factors that play at that. And it's not just me. It's not my life now that's impacted. Like I said, it goes to my children. Their life is impacted. Jared's family as well have had to navigate through this whole process. And now I've got a new partner who, again, comes from a completely different world. She's a professional in her own right, and I respect that, and I'm a professional in mine. We live two very different lives. We're both very respectful of that. But together we make a really good team.